What's up, guys? Brendan Hancock here with another episode of Groove Subaru today. And today we're inside of a 2019 Subaru Ascent Touring trim level. And today we're going to tell you guys everything you need to know about the navigation system. So we're sitting inside of a 2019 Subaru Ascent. It's a touring trim level. And this one being a touring trim, just like with the Forester and the Outback nowadays, it's going to come with everything. So we do have the built-in navigation, although you can get the navigation features in other trim levels as an option, depending on which package you get in both the premium and limited trim levels as well. Now, since this does come with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, you do have the ability to use navigation features either with your Apple phone. If you're using Apple CarPlay, that would be Apple Maps. If you're using Android Auto, you have the ability to use either Google Maps or Waze. And I have heard, actually, not from Subaru, but from Apple, that Apple CarPlay will get the ability to use Waze as well with Apple CarPlay. So clearly some licensing stuff going on there with some business deals that need to get made, but that's really good news because Apple Maps is terrible. Now, today we're talking about the actual navigation system that's built into this car. Now, this is going to remain available. You have your navigation system. It's built into the car. It's using satellite information. It comes from TomTom, and the traffic information all comes from SiriusXM. Now, you do only have SiriusXM radio for 4 months, but you will get the traffic information for 3 years free included with your purchase of this vehicle. Now, the first thing I like to look at when I take a look at this, and you guys may recognize this navigation system. Now, technically, this whole infotainment system is a newer generation than what we're seeing in the 18 Outbacks, but it's going to look very similar. It's going to work very similarly as well. Now, the first thing I always like to do is adjust the view, which I can do by tapping this compass up here. Now, typically, when you get it from the factory, you're going to see it in this view right here, which I hate. This is showing you true north, and right now we're facing east. We can tell from our compass up there, and compass from here, we're facing east, so meaning the top of the screen is true north, and I can tell I'm facing east too because of the little arrow there. I don't like that very much because it's going to show me physically coming down on the map there, if I'm heading south, which is really annoying and kind of confusing, where it's like, okay, I actually need to take a left here, but it's going to show me having to take a right, which too much thinking while I'm trying to figure out where I'm going if I don't know where I'm going. So you can change that by tapping the little compass icon. I can get this view, which is just going to show me a 2D overhead view, but it's going to show me the direction I'm actually going. And then this one, which is my personal favorite, this is kind of a 3D first-person view, which shows me always going forward no matter which direction I'm facing. It's going to auto zoom into if I'm getting onto an exit ramp, which lane to get in and stuff like that. Much easier to follow. Overall, I like it a lot better than any of the others. So you can change it all the time if you want to and stuff. Now, other things we can do on this home screen, if I do tap this, I've got a couple options. I can zoom in or out. Up here, I can turn off the traffic information if I wanted to, which I don't know why you would want to do that, but if you wanted to, you can do that. I can turn off the navigation turn-by-turn directions, and then I can also turn off or I can actually search, for the nearest gas station. And this is also going to be through the Sirius XM as well. This is if we went to, for example, let's go here to apps. I could go to Travel Link. This is going to be the same feature that we're looking here for the fuel prices searching there. So that's all through the Sirius XM. So now to actually put an address in, I have a couple of different options. I can use voice commands, or which we'll get to in a second here, or I can type it in manually. So if I go to menu, simply search for destination. I can just type in the name of the restaurant or type in the address. Most of the time, if it's a big place, like you guys might have Kroger where you're watching from, but King Soopers out here, if I'm typing in King Soopers, it'll give me a couple options. Smaller places, though, to be honest, for the most part, you might need to search the address on your phone and type in the address this way. Mom and pop kind of shops probably aren't going to come up, so just do be aware of that. If you're looking for McDonald's or things of that nature, definitely going to show up. But if I was going to look up, let's try Groove Subaru here, for example. So Groove Subaru does show up right here. So we do have that available, but real small kind of places probably aren't going to show up. You might need to actually search the actual address. Now, let's say I did type in Groove Subaru and was a little bit more patient and actually waited for it to show up. Sometimes you'll see multiples that will show up here, like it might say, if we were just typing in the address, let's do it that way, actually. So if I was just typing in 5300 South Broadway. See how it's starting to kind of show me, look at alternative options here. So let's say you're looking up, for South Broadway Circle. I might actually have to slide, over here to see, South Broadway Circle or South Broadway Drive. If I was looking for that, might be over here. So just do be aware of that. This is our actual address there. So if I do tap on that, whenever I hit, select an address there from that initial screen, this is going to be the screen that shows up. It'll give me 3 different options back here: shortest, fastest, and most economical given fuel economy. Since we're literally on our property right now, they're all the same. It's just drive towards the building. But it's also going to show us the weather and stuff. That's also coming through TravelLink through that SiriusXM subscription. If I wanted to set this as a favorite, I could just tap the little star up here, and I'll show you how to access that later. I would hit go if I wanted to actually start my route, or I can go to route options here and avoid certain things such as tollways, highways, or unpaved roads as well. Now let's hit that go screen here.
Proceed to highlighted route.
And then that's going to start to give me my directions. I have not turned off the turn-by-turn directions, and since we do have the display up here as well, it's going to give me those turn-by-turns up there. Now let's say I wanted to cancel this. I can hit the cancel button right there. But before we do that, over here, typically people like to keep arrival time, but you can change that to either distance or time remaining until you get there. I really like arrival time because for me, I see that as time to beat. So if I wanted to cancel that route, I would simply go to menu and hit cancel. Now over here on menu, there's a couple of different options we do have here. I can go to nearby places if I wanted to search certain points of interest. I could go to recent places that I looked up or recent destinations, which there's a different screen to get to for that. You can access this in a different place as well. I'll show you in a second. But for points of interest, really, you're probably not going to use this unless you're looking for just, you have no care in the world where you're actually going, or you're like, hey, I want to go to a movie theater, and you really don't have any specific one in mind. It's a cool way if you're kind of willing to explore, or just looking for specific restaurants, perhaps on a road trip, or a post office. I could see some value there, or pharmacy, things of that nature. But for most things, you're going to probably type in the actual address. Now, to go back here, I could go to previous addresses, and I was going to tell you this is a place you can look at for your recents and favorites and things like that. But if I went to favorites here, let's say I wanted to rename that physically Groove Subaru. I put my friend's address in there, for example, and I want to rename that Bob's House. I can hit the little settings icon up here, tap that, and then I can just type in Groove Subaru. So now this is going to have it as a favorite, but it's also going to be a nice name that I know and can see much more easily than just looking at an address. If you have a couple of your friends' addresses on there, you're not going to necessarily remember, whose is whose, but if I put Bob's house, Doug's house, Billy's house, for example, that's going to make much more sense to me. So let's head back here. Now we can also set, real quick too, we can actually, if I go to previous addresses here, I can also set under favorites, home and work. And the nice thing there is if I actually use voice activation, I can simply say drive home or drive to work, which is much easier than actually having to say the address if I am using voice activation. Now, before we get to the voice commands for this, one of the coolest things that I like here is the ability to add shortcuts. And we've talked about shortcuts in some of our other videos, but specifically in reference to navigation, adding shortcuts can be really helpful. So for example, these are all shortcuts, just so you guys know. So shortcut to phone, shortcut to apps. But I can add, if I go to add shortcut and then map, I can go to recent destinations, which will pull that up, specific categories and points of interest. But my favorite is if we navigate to a favorite destination, I can select one of those, and it's going to be right there on the home screen. So instead of having to actually either use voice activation or any of that stuff, I can simply tap this. And if I want to move this, for example, to the second screen, or maybe this third screen over there, come on, buddy, you got there. Where did it go? Oh, it kept there. All right, so I guess I have to fill up the second screen first. But so let's say I want this second screen to be a couple destinations I go to. Instead of having to use voice or anything like that, I just tap the destination. Boom, there it goes. I'm on my way. So that it's much faster.
Proceed to highlighted route.
If you're going to use, go to that location pretty frequently. And then if you want to delete one, all you'd have to do here. Let's go back to the home screen. So if I wanted to delete that, I would just push and hold like this, just like on a smartphone, and slide down. Oops, didn't do it quite far enough. Slide it down. There you go. Cool. So let's go back to navigation here. Now there's a couple of different commands that you can do with voice commands. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the little talk button here to kind of scroll through a couple of those options. So if I hit the voice button, it's on the left side of the steering wheel. I'm going to hit help.
There are a variety.
And then the back button, just so I can kind of get the screen to stay up here to kind of talk about some of the navigation commands. So we're going to do a different video on voice activation in general. Today we're specifically focusing on the navigation commands you could do. So if I go to navigation commands, like I was saying earlier, you can simply say drive home, drive to work, or if I'm looking at looking for a specific destination, or for example, King Soopers is a Starbucks, I can simply say find nearest. Now, like I said, specific like big chains, things like that, those are going to pop up. But for the most part, it's not going to find little mom and pop kind of shops if you say find nearest. For those, you're going to probably need to look up the address and then say navigate to or things. And in all honesty, using voice commands, it's nice. But the only real benefit, in my personal opinion, is you can do it while you're driving, whereas when you can't physically type in an address otherwise. But in terms of the amount of time it takes to type in an address really quickly, it's really no benefit to do it via voice unless you're driving. Of course, then it will allow you to do that. So we'll do a couple different options here. So I'll do navigate to, and I'll put our address in here, and then I'll also do find nearest and put a restaurant, just as an example. And if you wanted to, you can also say enter an address. In my personal opinion, I don't think that's necessary because you can just say navigate to and then actually just say the address. But we'll do both of those here just in this example. So we'll hit back. I'll just be on the home screen. I'm going to tap this here. Navigate to 5300 South Broadway, Englewood, Colorado.
Five, 3, 0, 0. South Broadway, Englewood, Colorado. Do you want to start navigation?
Yes.
Proceed to highlighted route.
So there you go. Works very well. You just need to talk at a normal cadence. You don't need to talk super slow or super quickly. I have found, however, sometimes it gets confused if you actually say the zip code. So in my personal opinion, I recommend not saying the zip code and just leaving that little bit out. So we're going to cancel this. I'm going to try a restaurant or King Soopers, and I'm going to say find nearest just to kind of demonstrate that for you. Find nearest King Soopers.
King Soopers. Choose an item from the list shown. Say the item you want or say the line number.
1.
King Soopers. Do you want to start navigation?
Yes.
Proceed to highlighted route.
So it works pretty well. Like I said, I mean, that waiting time there, kind of waiting for it to kind of boot and everything, it takes about the same amount of time to type it in. If you don't know where the nearest King Soopers is, that might obviously save you a little bit of time doing that. But the biggest benefit, like I said, is doing it while you're driving. You can easily do this. Now, if you are using Apple Carplay or Android Auto, when you touch the voice button, if I'm plugged in, for example, I'm going to plug in my phone here. So now I would have Apple CarPlay up. But if I hit the voice button now, it's going to actually automatically use Siri, and then it's going to go to Apple Maps. So watch this. Navigate to the nearest King Soopers.
Getting directions to King Soopers.
So we can see here, this is a different screen. It's going to go automatically through to Apple Maps. So if you want to use voice commands to use the navigation and you want to use this navigation screen, you just need to make sure that you're not plugged in to either Apple Maps or to Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. Just a heads up on that. So hopefully you guys have found this video to be helpful. For more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to our channel. If you guys like what you saw today, make sure to leave us a like. And with any questions or anything like that regarding this video specifically, leave those in the comments and we'll be sure to get back to you. Thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate it. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you guys next time on Groove Subaru Today. Take care.